clearly mentioned, I just want to tell you, it is the responsibility of a husband, and that he has to fulfill. That responsibility means he has to take care of her. If he's going for a military expedition or everything, he has to ensure that his wife and children are provided in his absence. And when he comes back, he is there and he looked after. If he decides to get married to another woman, he has to ensure that his first wife is looked after properly, or he has enough space, enough wealth, enough land, enough property to look after them. And he also give a justice to all the wives. So this is what basically describes cultures like Japan, Korea, China, etc. So primarily all Asian based cultures, you will have some or other ways. I don't see much in the north side, but in south side, I come from a Karnataka. The tradition is still there. The first time when the women get, the girl is, get her periods, then she is, asked her to. She's isolated, and later on third day or the fourth day, then she, what we call celebrated. There's a big function happens. Many people are invited. It's like a mini marriage. So many people are invited. They come and bring their gifts and bring dresses, and things happens, and there is a big celebrations. I mean, it is very strange and embarrassing to of fetus or the embryo at any stage is a heinous crime. This is clearly mentioned in all the parts. I think in Manusmritis also it is mentioned, and also there is also one more place I have seen that another Smriti I am not able to recognize, but it is mentioned that one should not indulge into destroying the embryo in any form, anyway, because when the women get pregnant, it is a sign of that there is a what we call, from the religious or spiritual perspective, there is the life is about to be born. So we have no right to take that life away. If you see the examples of Kunti, right? She had a child, but she did not.
That polygamy was the reality for most societies before the European society came up, and they became a model of monogamy and monogamous marriages in global society. How much of that is true that they were the ones who introduced monogamy? Is it not true that monogamy was something that was the reality of the society, except for the monarchs who had to give an uttaradhikari later on? And is it true that among all polygamous societies, India was just one in many?
Okay, let me tell you this. The polygamy or monogamy is a custom which is very misunderstood. Even in Europe, if you look at that, they said they had a queen, but they had many women, open relationship with many women. Here we talk about the polygamy. Here they had legal wives. Okay, legal wives, and this was, yes, practice. This was practiced, and especially it was practiced among rich and noble people. The common people, but there were few people who followed the monogamy. Like for example, the Sri Ram, he said that I'm ek pativrata, right? It means I will have only one wife. Even Ravan abducted Sita, he did not look for another princess. He was a prince, crown prince of the Ayodhya. That was the biggest, the what we call kingdom during those days. Any king would have happily given his daughter to him. That was the easiest way. He could have just forgotten Sita and got married and went back to Ayodhya. Not only one, many of them, right? Even his father got married to three queen, like three ladies, right? So it was a choice. Even if you look at his brother Lakshman or the Bharat or Shatrugna, they all had one wife each, So it was a personal choice. It was not what we call practice, but people did not look down. They did have polygamy, but of course, polyandry was not practiced. Draupadi and more cases, I don't come across any more cases as such. Whoever was there, the responsibility of husband was humongous, and that is very clearly mentioned. I just want to tell you, it is the responsibility of a husband, and that he has to fulfill. That responsibility means he has to take care of her. If he's going for a military expedition or everything, he has to ensure that his wife and children are provided in his absence. And when he comes back, he is there and he looked after. If he decides to get married to another woman, he has to ensure that his first wife is looked after properly, or he has enough space, enough wealth, enough land, enough property to look after them. And he also give a justice to all the wives. So this is what basically described. If you can take care of and the your and the second marriage or the third marriage. So in fact, the law is recently enacted in, I think, 1956, where the polygamy was prohibited for the Hindus. But that is not for other religion. I want to tell you, in fact, that was part of my summary, but I would like to say women in particularly did not venture out or say that I am equal to you. If you do this, I will do that. This, that. No, they both men and women had a sense of responsibility. They also had the belief karma. They said, I will do my responsibility, or I'll play my role to the core, and I will ensure that what is my dharma, I will follow that dharma, and also do all the activities and also follow my karma. So that part was there. If somebody did a wrong, for example, husband did a wrong, so why did not revenge against him? She said he did his karma, he will face his consequences. Similar way, if wife did anything wrong, husband did not go after her to say that I am going to go and punish her or something. The concept was that she will face her karma. So those kind of thought process were there. So people were more of what we call in, in case of, and not necessary, but however, I would like to say, when men married multiple women, if you look at the example of Rama, the Kaushalya was a strength. So she was holding the family together, the rituals, and kept the house and everything running properly. Whereas Kaikai was, other hand, was a different kind of a person. She accompanied him in his military expedition. So there were different women played a different role in the husband's life. So it was not conflicting and complex, because unlike modern days where women are clinging on to husband 24/7, that was not the case. They had multiple roles, big families, joint. So I think they could easily accept one more person in that big family. So that kind of a situation.
Ma'am, the last question I have in connection with marriages, the marriage sub part that we've covered. is that was there a process of divorce or separation in the Hindu society?
Uh, in fact, there is no word as a divorce because the marriage was considered as a lifetime commitment in Hinduism. It is always the lifetime commitment, even after life also. Yes, separation you may see very sporadic, this one. And again, if the man was rich, he had a multiple house, he may not visit his first wife's house or something, but he ensured that he provided her. But there was no word of a divorce in the Hindu, what we call scriptures, or even in our tradition or the custom. It is always, if you get married, it is a lifetime commitment. And more than women, there was a responsibility on men actually, because they have the women give her appropriate the earnings, and there has to be enough what we call the place for them to stay, appropriate the clothes, jewelry, the house, and the children's education. So many the responsibilities they carried actually. So the divorce was not there.
Now, ma'am, we'll come to the part where we discuss menstruation. Was menstruation a taboo in our society when discussed?
Mhm.
There are a lot of beliefs in terms of, pickles can't be touched, women can't visit temples during menstruation. What exactly is the thought process behind that? And another question that comes is that were women deemed as impure during their menstruation?
Okay. Okay. Before answering that, uh, transition to the adulthood was always celebrated, and the celebration included offerings of the gift, jewelry, etc., to the new lady. Apart from India, similar tradition of celebrating the adulthood also observed in many cultures like Japan, Korea, China, etc. So primarily all Asian Western cultures, you will have some or other ways. I don't see much in the north side, but in south side, I come from a Karnataka. The tradition is still there. The first time when the women get, the girl is, get her periods, then she is, uh, uh, asked her to. She's isolated, and later on third day or the fourth day, then she's, what we call celebrated. There's a big function happens. Many people are in. It's like a mini marriage. So many people are invited. They come and bring their gifts and new dresses and all things happens, and there is a big celebrations. I mean, it is very strange and embarrassing to hear that, but this is a very common practice. I think there has been a misunderstanding of the menstrual issues. Instead of addressing them sensibly from the perspective of the hygiene, health, and religious, this has health and religious or the social concern. Some group have shifted the narrative towards the discrimination, which is not. This I'm sharing one, the Manusmriti. I think this is one. Look at this. It is not talking about what it says. Madde mutre purushe vishthavne pushenoshte. That is sharab, mal, mutra, thuk, rad, khun. Ye, these are all impure. Now look at this. It's not they're talking about the blood, or I'm not talking about menstrual perspective. I'm giving you hygiene perspective. This is they mentioned. If you see all the Asian cultures, they had a toilet outside the house, because that is something which is very contagious, right? Like the urine and what we call the potty was always carried the diseases. So as per the Ayurveda, we always had a preventive system rather than uh, uh, curing the diseases, right? So considering in this same line, they also had somebody who is not well, or somebody like what we call uh, uh, is what we call handling the blood, or someone is having a cough. or that is or all wherever they have this contiguous. So they felt that those people should, that thing should be isolated from the main part, so that is what they, in fact, I have if you see any houses in Japan, even my house in Tokyo, that has a toilet at the one corner. The moment you enter, there is a toilet in one corner, then there is a door, then you enter into the main area of the living room and the kitchen, but there is a significant distance between this. Instead of that, what you see en suite, the system in India, which is we copied from the Western culture. So the reason was, this is to prevent the disease transmission. There used to be restriction on the women's movement in the crowded areas. In the past, I'm talking about, in the past, communities would disappear in the face of diseases outbreak, like a cholera, plague, flu, and more recently like a COVID-19. So we have seen that. If you look into this, in absence of modern medicine, people relied on Ayurvedic treatment, which focused on preventive measures rather than cure. So the temple served as a place for worship, education, entertainment, legal matters. Judiciary is also that the cases were heard, panchayat, what we call, right, and many more. Due to the high energy and a large crowd in the temple, certain restrictions were put in place, and it was essential to consider the community's well-being. And for instance, the practice of, if you look at this, so that's where they prohibited women to visit the temple. So simply from not women in the menstruating time or something, but they had many rules in the society, which they have observed time to time. Like, for example, even today we say we eat by right hand, and they said that right hand is for eating, left hand is for cleaning, which is not a gender specific person. So it is just keeping the society, what we call safe. And again, touch the pickle, what we call, is very absurd and very childish, what we call the propaganda or a narrative, because they don't want to get into depth and the facts to understand the customs. Olden days, even I've seen my grandmother in 70s, they had, uh, they used to spend significant time in the summer to prepare the papads and, pickles and this and that, and so many things. And they would keep it in the place where the gods were kept, because so that, not everyone just go there and touch them. Only I'm not talking about a restriction for the women, but even the restriction for the men also, because then only you go there. If, people go rarely enter into the what we call the room where the pujas are done, and also women would just go and take out the stuff, the food stuff, because there was a scarcity of the food, and preserving the food was to the best of their abilities, was one of the practices they had. And again, look at that, earlier days the hygiene was very different, and now it is different. So, and again, hygiene is again person to person. It is greatly changes from individual to individual, and how their perception is there, and how do they handle situation. So you can't go on asking that, how did you wash your hand, did you do this, and it's very derogatory, in fact. So they just put a blanket ban on all these things. They said, okay, don't touch the pickle. If you are not well, if you are coughing or not well, stay away from the crowd. Okay, if you are in menstruating, stay isolated. And again, during those days, men and women both worked very hard. So women during those days definitely needed a rest. And because if that is a time when you need, your the organs are in a different state, then we need to take a rest. And so that is important. All this has been again misunderstood, and of course the modern sanitary options were not there, so for them they had no option but to impose a kind of what we call restriction on the women, so not to say. Again, in the religious reason which I mentioned, that the temple and all again had a very high energy points, apart from a community, this one preventive uh, the situation, the temples were very high energy points that could also change women's what we call um, the energy, or that could create a issue. So that's why I would say that one need to look at this holistically rather than questioning why this is there, why it is not there. It is nothing to do with the gender, or it is nothing to do with bad treatment to the women or something. It is protecting everyone, protecting the entire community in one go, protecting the family. You have seen the COVID, if you have seen those plague, or if you have seen the flu, choleras, some of the movies are there. You can see how the people have vanished overnight. So it is very difficult. So people were always anxious, and they were always very, protective. And this is especially in the medieval area. Previously, the medicine, the Ayurvedic medicine, and they were little bit more advanced. Now the knowledge has diluted, so things have changed actually. Let me see. If you also see, if how hospital treats the blood, are they going to? If you see, they go to the surgery and just wash the hand. No, they have seven, eight, not seven, eight, three, four gloves at least, all those things. So we are talking about we are talking about dealing with women, the women who are dealing with the blood. So that's what we do. And of course, the regular women, you don't expect them to wear the gloves or wash their hand or sanitize them 10 times. So that kind of a thing usually don't happen. But nowadays, of course, the things have changed. And if this is and this kind of what we call restriction should not be there, I personally think, because we have sanitizers, we have sanitary napkins, we have, of course, the soaps and this and that. So things are there. So this, of course, need to go away. But I do not, from my personal perspective, women should stay away from the temple because of the energy point and all those things. So, it is very easy to dismiss this idea, but if looking deeper into this knowledge, you will see even the Western people are also looking at the chakra, energy point, and the wavelengths, and that is impact on the people. So all these are also been studied and followed in, by some section of the people in India and also abroad. So one need to look at this holistically rather than just a small narrow wavelength of the gender bias or disrespecting women. No, no, not like that. In fact, if you look at that, women would often fetch the drinking water for the family. If so, then there was only one or two well in the villages. So they would restrict themselves going to that village, and if by mistake or something the water get contaminated, water, there's some problems there with the hygiene. I wouldn't say contaminated, that is the wrong word, sorry about that. But even the men who were working in the field, or they were dealing with some dirt or something, they would always tell other people to fetch the water for them. It's not, nobody took it as a discriminatory or something. They just were very cautious about preserving the resources for everyone.
Ma'am, another question is about abortion. In the case of America, you see that abortion is something that is not much favored, and now they have a legal representation within their laws that that has criminalized women opting for abortion. However, in the case of India, because we are a country that has faced issues like infanticide and feticide, abortion is something that is very easy to do, as well as abortion is something that is done, that used to be done in high numbers, and it is legal, and it is very easy to legally get that through MTI, which is medical termination. Now, my question is, what was the take on abortion when it came to our scriptures? And what was the take on abortion when it came to societal understanding of what it used to be?
Okay. Now, abortion is basically terminating the fetus, because they said destroyal of fetus, or the embryo at any stage is a heinous crime. This is clearly mentioned in all the parts. I think in Manusmritis also it is mentioned, and also there is also one more place I have seen, that another Smriti I'm not able to recognize, but it is mentioned that one should not indulge into destroying the embryo in any form, anyway, because uh, when the women get pregnant, it is a sign of that there is a, what we call, from the religious or spiritual perspective, there is a the life is about to be born, so we have no right to take that life away. If you see the examples of Kunti, right, she had a child, but she did not what you call, opt for any abortion or something. She delivered the child, but she given away. So even in the Manusmriti, and also another scriptures I have said, in fact I should share with you, that they said women who are violated, so, and they get pregnant, and this is unwanted pregnancy. In this case also, they have mentioned, here it is, embracing of violated women. They mentioned that
Your
the
screen
women,
is not
if she
sharing.
gets pregnant, oh, sorry. I don't know what's wrong with this one. Every time I scroll down, I'm sorry. This is something to do with. How about now? I'll just show. Can you see this?
Yes, yes, I can see it now.
Okay, let me give you the description of this one. I mean, interpretation of this one. See, when women faced with misfortune or unwanted attention from other men, they were welcomed back into their homes and the society. If a child was born outside marriage, the child would be entrusted to someone else for upbringing, while the women continued to reside with her marital family. So this is how they have mentioned here, that women where they knew these kind of situations were there in the society at that time. Of course, the punishments were given to the man who violated her, but the child which is born out of the wedlock was given away to someone to raise. But there is no mention of killing the embryo at any stage, or maybe abortion at any place. And again, in the my first slide, I have also mentioned that the birth of the childbirth. That's where I mentioned, here it is. Let me just say exactly mention. Smriti mentions destruction of an embryo as the most heinous crime. Female infanticide, as mentioned, times intellectuals, was not practiced in Mahabharata. It could have been a small section in a particular community for some weird reason for a very short time. So otherwise, you don't see this practice. Let me take you to that slide. Here it is. The last line, as per Smriti, female infanticide or destruction of an embryo considered as a most heinous crime. So at least I have not come across so far. In case if I come across, I'll let you know. But otherwise, also, this was not allowed. See, the what we call the freedom is for mother, freedom is for people, but there is what is the freedom of the unborn child? One needs to consider this perspective as well, and the going and which is expecting the care and the safety and and all this thing, and that is a helpless child. So how we accept that we use our intellectual and our wisdom to kill something which is what we call um, helpless situation, right? So I mean, if you consider from the what we call uh, this, it is kind of a very inhuman condition. I know the mothers or the women sometimes don't want to take the responsibility of the child because of the various situation, but in this case they can use the option of putting up the child for the adoption. You look at the very famous example, Steve Jobs, the founder of the Apple. His mother had a child out of wedlock, and her parents did not allow her to keep the child. So she didn't go for abortion or something. She gave a birth to the child, and she had, found suitable parents for the adoption, and she gave away the child. And look at what he has created, the Apple. So I mean to say there are many examples are there, and there are many other solutions are there. There are many childless, what we call couples are there who are wanting to adopt a child. There are many men and women are there who are not married, and they want to adopt a child. That can be done. There is a waiting list for adoption in India. Probably you are not aware of that, but I mean to say, choice is yours to raise or not to raise a child. But personally, I feel abortion is a very heinous crime.
Ma'am, when it comes to the example of Steve Jobs, that isn't quite representative of
Mm,
the Indian society, ancient or modern. However, my question is about the
mm,
Manusmriti. The Manusmriti talks about how it is a
mm,
heinous crime. But when we talk about scriptures, there needs to be an
mm.
understanding of how the hierarchy of scriptures works in our society. What the Vedas say may be the closest to what is absolute, but the Smritis were subservient to getting irrelevant, which is why after Manusmriti we had the Yajnavalkya Smriti and then 12 Smritis after that. So, when it comes to citing example of Manusmriti, how is it relevant to the modern time? Because it is a vidhan, and a vidhan is subservient to time. It is something that will get irrelevant for the society after a point, which is why we had so many smritis later on as well. So, how correct is it to understand abortion and marriage and all that we've discussed from the lens of Manusmriti, and how correct is it to even um, say that we as a society did not have adhered to Manusmriti, because that is not true. Once it did get irrelevant with time, we gave up the Manusmriti. How true is it that we can call Manusmriti a scripture rather than a vidhan, or a constitution that gave commandments to a society, and then when it did wear out in terms of its effectiveness, we adopted another smriti. So that becomes a question. I'm talking about the credibility of Manusmriti to be understood as Hindu scripture, and also understanding what basically scripture means for Hindus.
Okay, great. Um, Of course, Manusmriti is it's like a kind of what we call the guide, rule guide, for the Hindu society. And they he has formed the norms for the society to function. Like after they say Brahma has created the universe, but the universe has to run in a proper order. So this is where the Manusmriti came into picture. Of course, what you are saying, that how relevant it is, the relevance, if you are looking at from what perspective. See, not everything you are looking at from what we call the comparing apple to apple. This doesn't work. It is more of like a wisdom. So you are looking at from a different perspective. Like as we said that some the most of the things you'll have to see whether it is relevance or not relevance, right? Like for example, again you have to see whether what actually it was written, how it was interpreted, how it was practiced, and how it was misrepresented. This part is also important. And of course, as we said that earlier days, the joint family system were there. Some of the rituals were different. Now there is a nuclear family. I think in the future it is going to be one person family, which is not very far now, where the individual people will be living together, husband living at one place, wife is living at one place, so child is living in another place. It is possibility now. And then how are we going to what we call survive, right? So what they have given from the society perspective, for the community perspective. But the more we get divided, the more the community get fragmented, the more difficult it is going to be for an individual to survive. And some of not some of the, most of the things what Manusmriti has written, where it is, whether you look at the husband and wife relationship, or whether you look at the marriage, whether you are looking at, these are the do's and don'ts, all the things, they're still relevant. Isn't that relevant that the women should not get married against her will? It is relevant even today. And this says that these four types of weddings are there. Of course, the donating to the priest is not relevant, and it is not happening anymore. And people not even talking about it, right? Only what we are following is that Brahma Vivaha, right? Brahma Vivaha or the Panigraha, that only two of them we are following. And of course, the Gandharva Vivaha is also there, where people are, going and registering their marriage without telling their parents and getting married. So that is happening. But there is no hard and fast that you have to follow. But those are the guidelines you can follow. But of course, they're also mentioning that you should not indulge into the Rakshas Vivaha or the Pishascha Vivaha, or what the Asura Vivaha, whatever it is. So those are the big no, that is already mentioned. And some part, like for example, the Sati is not mentioned earlier, in between it happened, but it is not relevant at all. So it should not be there. Okay, so this comes with the wisdom, this comes with some common sense, which we need to also apply. We can't just take as it is. See what is applicable. Like for another examples is there, like some of the rituals we still follow because they are relevant. So and nothing wrong in following that. It's not, I mean, if following any particular rituals or the custom which is bringing the joy, or which is helpful in our day-to-day life, you can continue. What's wrong with that? That what is relevant and what is useful, we should continue. What you think is not relevant, you can discontinue. Nobody's questioning in today's society. However, again, in my own case, I would like to say, when I was young, I was very kind of a ferocious and very feminist. I wrote articles and I talked about equality, gender equality, and I was like all the time, debating about this part. But after over a period of time, when I started studying and after maturing and all, I started looking things from a different perspective. Now I feel that okay, now what they were seeing, that meaning was different. What they wanted us to have some peaceful, harmonious relationship, and also have a cohesive environment where everyone live together in what we call in a peaceful matter. That was important. And olden days it was little different. and of course it is not going to be that different. Even the communities live together because for them survival was very important. All the community, they stayed very closely, society stayed too closely, because they had to protect the entire community in one go. So the villagers used to protect themselves, so it was like a kind of what we call one big, and everybody knows what is happening in every functions in the villages. So it's like that. You can watch some of the Bollywood movies for that. So in such a situation, everyone knows what is happening in everybody's family. It's very self-imposed, what we call, people don't what we call isolate them, because end of the day they have to live in that small community. So that was also the need of the hour. Even if you go to villages, this still thing happens because there everyone knows everyone. Then that is a mandatory for them to live with certain rules and regulations. In cities, what happened, no one knows who is living, who is your neighbor. So in that situation, you can do whatever you want, as long as you don't get yourself into trouble with the law and order situation, you see. So this is up to you how you lead. If you, again, I hope you understood my the answer, right?
Thank you very much, ma'am, for this wonderful interview. You have helped us understand the status of women by sharing your views on it. And I hope that this will be helpful for all of our viewers. Thank you and namaste.
Thank you so much. Thank you for everything. I hope it is useful. Thank you.